You're standing in front of a suburban Chicago home in the 1970s. Neat lawn, trimmed hedges, nothing out of the ordinary. The man who lives here volunteers at community events, dressing up as Pogo the Clown to entertain sick children at hospitals. He's well-liked, hard-working, a respected member of his community. But beneath the floorboards of this ordinary house lies one of the most horrifying secrets in American criminal history. This is the story of John Wayne Gacy, the man who proved that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like your neighbor. John Wayne Gacy Jr. was born on March 17, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. From the outside, you might think his childhood was typical for the era, but you'd be wrong. His father, John Wayne Gacy Sr., was an abusive alcoholic who regularly beat young John and his siblings. He belittled his son constantly, calling him weak, stupid, and questioning his masculinity at every turn. No matter what young Gacy did, it was never enough to earn his father's approval. This psychological torture would shape the man he'd become in ways that no one could have predicted. But Gacy was determined to prove everyone wrong. In the 1960s, he threw himself into building a respectable life. He got married to Marlyn Myers in 1964, and they had 2 children together. He became a successful manager at several Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants owned by his father-in-law. He joined the Jaycees, a community service organization, and quickly rose through the ranks. You'd see him at charity events, fundraisers, political rallies. He even had his photo taken with First Lady Rosalynn Carter. He was living the American dream, except he wasn't. In 1968, Gacy was convicted of sexually assaulting a teenage boy in Waterloo, Iowa. He'd lured the 15-year-old to his home with promises of work, then attacked him. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. His wife divorced him, taking their children. His carefully constructed life had crumbled. But here's what makes your blood run cold. Gacy only served 18 months of that sentence. 18 months. The parole board deemed him a model prisoner and released him early. He convinced them he was rehabilitated, reformed, ready to rejoin society. You watch as Gacy moves back to Chicago, to a house at 8213 West Summerdale Avenue in Norwood Park Township. It's 1971, and he's starting over. He launches a construction business called PDM Contractors. He remarries, this time to a woman named Carol Hoff, who has 2 young daughters. He becomes active in Democratic Party politics. He organizes elaborate themed parties at his home. He creates his clown personas, Pogo and Patches, performing at children's hospitals and neighborhood gatherings. Everyone loves him. He's charismatic, funny, generous with his time. He's the guy you want at your barbecue. But you notice something odd. There's a strange smell coming from his crawl space. Gacy tells his wife it's moisture, a sewage problem. He tells neighbors it's dead mice. The smell persists, but no one questions it too deeply. Why would they? This is John Wayne Gacy, pillar of the community. His construction business is thriving, and he hires teenage boys to work for him. Young men who need money, who are drawn to this successful businessman who offers them opportunity. Some of them disappear. But these are the 1970s, and many of these boys are runaways, drifters, young men from troubled homes. When they vanish, investigations go nowhere. Society doesn't look too hard for missing boys like these. Gacy's second marriage falls apart by 1976. Carol later recalls that he had become distant, that he spent most nights out, that their intimate life had become non-existent. After the divorce, Gacy lives alone in that house on Summerdale Avenue. And now, with no one watching, he's completely free. December 11th, 1978. You're 15-year-old Robert Piest, and you're working at a pharmacy in Des Plaines, Illinois. A contractor comes in to talk to the owner about renovation work. You mention to your mother that this man says he might have a summer job for you, and that you're going to talk to him about it. You tell her you'll be back in a few minutes. You walk out into the parking lot. You're never seen alive again, but this time something is different. Robert Piest isn't a runaway. He's a good kid from a stable home. His mother knows exactly where he was going and who he was meeting. She immediately contacts the police, and the man Robert went to see, John Wayne Gacy. The police start investigating Gacy, and they discover his 1968 conviction. They put him under surveillance. Gacy knows he's being watched, and in a display of stunning arrogance, he actually brings donuts and coffee to the officers watching his house. He's playing with them, confident he's untouchable. He invites some of the officers inside his home for drinks. They smell that persistent odor, but they don't have a warrant to search. The pressure builds. Police dig deeper into Gacy's background and talk to young men who worked for him. Several tell disturbing stories about Gacy's behavior, about inappropriate advances, about friends who went to work for Gacy and never came home. The investigators request a search warrant. On December 13, 1978, police obtain that warrant and enter Gacy's home. What they find in that house will haunt them for the rest of their lives. You're standing in the crawl space beneath the house now, and the smell that Gacy blamed on sewage and dead mice has an unspeakable source. Human remains. Not just one body, not 2 or 3. Eventually, investigators will recover the remains of 29 young men and boys from the crawl space and the property around Gacy's house. 4 more victims were found in the Des Plaines River, where Gacy had dumped them when he ran out of room. 33 victims. 33 young lives ended by a man in a clown suit. The youngest was just 14 years old. Samuel Stapleton, Randall Reffett, Michael Bonin, William Carroll, James Byron Harkinson. These weren't just numbers. These were sons, brothers, friends. Young men with futures that were stolen from them. Gacy's method was horrifyingly consistent. He would lure young men to his home with promises of construction work or money. He'd offer them drinks. He'd show them a magic trick with handcuffs, getting them to put the cuffs on. Once they were restrained, the horror would begin. He'd torture them for hours, sometimes days. He'd sexually assault them, and then he'd kill them, often using a rope tourniquet method he called the rope trick. He'd bury their bodies in his crawl space, pouring quicklime over them to speed decomposition and mask the smell. When he ran out of space, he started dumping bodies in the river. During his confession, Gacy showed no remorse. He blamed the victims, claiming they made advances toward him. He blamed his alter ego, Jack Hanley, claiming this separate personality committed the murders. He told investigators that several of the murders happened while he was in a trance-like state, claiming he had no memory of them. But the evidence told a different story. This was calculated, methodical, repeated over and over for years. The trial begins in February 1980, and it captivates the nation. How could this happen? How could a man torture and kill 33 people in a suburban neighborhood, and no one knew? The defense argues insanity. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence of premeditation and rational behavior. Gacy ran a successful business. He organized complex community events. He manipulated victims, police, his wives, his neighbors. This wasn't insanity. This was evil. The jury deliberates for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all 33 counts of murder. The sentence, death. For 14 years, Gacy sits on death row at Menard Correctional Center. He grants interviews, paints pictures that sell to morbid collectors, and continues to maintain his innocence or blame others. He shows the same charm that fooled so many people for so long. Some people even believe him, campaigning for a new trial, claiming he was framed. But on May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy is executed by lethal injection. His last words are to a guard, telling him that the state was about to murder him. No apology to the families, no acceptance of responsibility. Even at the end, Gacy was thinking only of himself. The case of John Wayne Gacy changed how law enforcement approaches missing persons cases, particularly involving young men and boys. It exposed the vulnerability of marginalized youth. It revealed how a predator could hide in plain sight, using community involvement and charm as camouflage. The image of the killer clown has become seared into our cultural consciousness, influencing countless books, movies, and nightmares. You drive past suburban homes today, with their neat lawns and trimmed hedges, and you wonder, John Wayne Gacy looked normal. He seemed trustworthy. He was successful, friendly, involved in his community. He dressed as a clown to make children smile, and beneath his house lay the bodies of 33 young men. The monster didn't look like a monster at all. He looked like someone you'd know, someone you might trust. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying truth of all.